Yakmala! Yakmala! Welcome back, my friends, to the Cult Film Showdown. I am your host, 8th Dan Stanadu, and I am truly pleased today to be joined by my good friends, and I got Jack Hall.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Yes.
I'm here. Hey, yo.
And maybe some penicillin will get rid of it. But and then Nick Boxer.
Greetings and salutations to my compatriots on the podcast that have proportions not as normal as others.
What the hell did he just say?
That went weird.
You got that right. Yeah, that's the first part you've nailed so far. Right.
I think it's just an issue of a poor translation.
Yeah.
I think the overdub of Nick might have just been a little off.
That's fair. Well, and
I appreciate that. My cute little potatoes.
Rounding out our group of merry men, we have James Cotta.
I'd like to take this opportunity to apologize for everything that's about to happen.
Oh, come on.
Just getting ahead of it.
We should have started that day one, but we're still here and entering season 17, in which we are going to enter the Octagon yet again because we are crazy like that. And this season that we are bringing you. Well, first, Jack, why don't you give the folks what Enter the Octagon is?
Enter the Octagon. It's we each pick a movie that represents potential seasons. So we have 8 different movies. This one, I believe, is representing, what was it? Oh, no, we can't. No, we shouldn't, but we will, or something like that.
We'll let Nick get into that afterwards. Because,
yeah. So basically, it's the idea that every movie represents a potential season. The 8 movies compete against each other in the Octagon, where, of course, we keep the scores from all the movies we've done. And the highest scoring film from these 8 will represent what the next season will be.
And, Nick, this is your season. Please explain.
Yes. I just thought we should celebrate films that just can't be made anymore for reasons of, taste. Just films that you look at and go, somebody will get upset. They're not necessarily offensive films, but maybe they are. And someone's just going to be upset if you try to make that today. So it doesn't get made. But there are plenty of weird and wacky films out there that did get made in times less sensitive.
It is true. There is an enormous amount of movies that we watch that could not and should not get made now. This one is Crippled Masters from 1979. Nick, it is your movie, and thankfully you also get to explain it.
This is a wonderful little film. It stars 2 gentlemen, both disabled in nature. It's a Hong Kong type action martial arts film. These two gentlemen, one does not have arms, the other one does not have use of his legs, and it's a special little film. We start off with one of our stars being injured or punished by the evil lord of the land by having his arms cut off, and he's shunned. He's kicked out of the palace as a warning to don't run astray of the Lord. Of course, the town people aren't really all that nice. They tease him, and he's eventually shunned from the village, and he has some real troubles. I mean, no arms, bleeding all over the place. Time period moves kind of weird in this movie. But, he gets kicked out of town, falls in a river, and finally he finds sort of a makeshift home on a farm. And, as time passes, he starts to get along. However, the underling that actually did the ordering for his arms to be cut off then also runs astray of the or the Lord of the Land. And strangely, the Lord of the Land has a different punishment for him. He gets his legs, or the bones in his legs, melted by acid. At which point, the Lord of the Land just sort of kicks him down a hill, and he rolls and rolls and rolls until he just sort of lands magically at the farm of the guy with no legs. And while they're fighting, they happen upon a kung fu master who lives in a rice bowl. Which sounds weird, but this movie sort of makes it make sense, I guess. And the master convinces them to team up and learn kung fu. And, what they do. Awesome training montages happen. And eventually, they're venturing into town and taking revenge on the town people slowly. But the Lord of the Land is still too good at kung fu. Then a cop comes to town in search of, I think it was the 12 jade stallions or some nonsense like that hold the mysterious secret of magic kung fu. And, stuff happens there, and they get better at kung fu, and they learn to work together. And then they go up against the Lord of the Land alongside the cop, and it's kind of neat and awesome.
It's the 8 jade horses.
8 jade horses. Okay, I had way too many horses in there.
Yeah, but in fairness, and I understand, the timer went off because that was one of your longest ever explanations. I know
it's not a simple movie.
I know that you know this movie extremely well, and I think that's fairly obvious.
I think I've seen it 3 or 4 times in my. I enjoy it a lot.
No, and I totally understand. This was my 3rd viewing of the movie myself, so it is a favorite as well.
And I'm not fast forwarding like women in prison movies, so it sticks a little bit better.
This is much better than most women in prison movies. Yes.
Could have used some breasts though.
Sure. Well, actually, other than the 10 seconds that it had women, it could have used women.
Did I blink? Were there women in this? I don't remember a single one, actually.
Yeah, there was, actually. They wound up, when they were going to, the one lackey was going to try to find the Crippled Masters for his master, and he wound up getting to a whorehouse, and it was just like, oh, are you sure you don't you're so missed here? And so he was going to go and jump in, but then he had to be reminded that he had a mission instead.
Right, at least they were whores, so, that negates, like, actually having women speaking in a movie.
Yes, oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's true, that there was at least...
Nick can be reached on Twitter at Nick...
I don't know where we go.
Exactly.
I'm not quite sure where we go either. That is the problem. That was such a very good explanation of the movie.
Please direct your complaints towards Nick Boxer. That's Nic. Oh man. So look, this is like you can't, no, whatever the season's called. How the hell can we? Something like that, right? What is the season actually called there, Nick?
No, I don't think. No, we can't. We can't do that. I think I didn't actually write it down.
That's pretty obvious.
So whichever one I said could be just as accurate.
Anything could be accurate.
Yeah. Yes. So what gets me about this is, no, we can't, because it's incredibly exploitive. On the other hand, isn't it at the same time incredibly empowering for the handicapped? You know what I mean? It's like you're definitely exploiting them. There's no question. You can't say you aren't. But there's something at least like you're showing off the tremendous physical and martial arts skills of these 2 gentlemen, despite their handicap too. So at the same time, it's like it's weird that way.
I think honestly the most, the worst part is simply nowadays the title of the movie, The Crippled Masters. You'd have to find some other way to put that, I think, but that's probably it, because...
But it's accurate, isn't it?
Well, it's sure, yep.
Especially the guy without legs. I mean, what are you going to call him? The Armstrong Masters? his arms are strong, so
Man of butt kung fu.
Kung fu.
No Stretch Armstrong.
No Stretch Armstrong. That's the thing, though. I mean, I'm watching this. I'm going, these two men are remarkable.
Action-wise, I mean, this movie holds up against some of the best martial arts films ever made.
The fight scenes
it is a balls-out, just kung fu master film. I love it that way.
I wouldn't put it up against the best martial arts films ever made, but I think considering, the limitations of the stars, it's as physically impressive a showcase as anything we've ever seen. So, I mean, yeah, it's really weird. So it's like, we can't. And we couldn't call it that title, but it's I don't know, man. It's like, I thought it was more exploitive than it was.
I think it's more that it's not so much maybe that they can't do this, they wouldn't do this now.
There is that. I think that's true.
Yeah, I think that sense of, it reminds me of Todd Browning's Freaks.
Yes,
yes. That it's not, you're not meant to be inspired by them. Certainly that's one reading of the movie, but I don't feel like that's the intention of it. I don't think it was about celebrating them. So yes, you can. I think we can admire their skill and the choreography, but I don't think that they set out to change double amputees have, and I think it's more like, come watch the thing.
Yes.
Come watch the two. Yeah, come watch. You won't believe this. That's where the exploitation takes place.
Yeah,
I think that's well put, James.
I mean, I think that it's like it does have those two levels of despite the intentions, you could be quite amazed by what they are able to do, and they are some really well choreographed fights. The kung fu in this is really solid. I don't know what we do with this one.
No, I don't have much else.
Did anybody learn anything from this film?
That you can teach an armless man and a legless man to work really well together?
Well, that doesn't seem very politically correct there. But I guess you're right. If that's what you learned, I can't deny you it.
I learned you can get your arms cut off without bleeding to death.
There's that, yes, absolutely.
I learned you can get your arm cut completely off and still have a stub of an arm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which is very, very handy for him, I'll say.
And the finger if you're looking closely.
I refuse to look closely.
Because he did a lot with that. Still, he was able to spin a staff with that. So very impressive. I mean, really impressive overall.
Yeah. Oh well. All right. I guess since you
I don't feel like I did learn anything from this.
We're definitely going to scoring then.
Yes. Let's set a land speed record on this episode. In our search for the ultimate B movies, we rate each film in 5 categories. None of these categories is objective quality. The first category is called Schlock Appeal, and we start with Stan.
I really enjoy this movie, and it's interesting. Like, the reason that I first was drawn to this movie was because it's called The Crippled Masters, and you have an armless guy and a legless guy fighting, and that seems really amazing and something to watch. I enjoy this movie. I will give it a 7.
I think it's more shocking than that. I mean, this is exploitation at its height, and it definitely feels a little grimy just even clicking on the link to watch this sucker. I'm going as high as a 9 on schlock appeal.
Yeah, I don't think it has a high schlock factor. I think it has a high appeal. I don't think personally, I don't think it's all that schlocky in comparison to some of the films we've seen out there. It's just a martial arts film from that era. It's no more schlocky than most of them. I've seen many that are much schlockier. It is exploitive. That's a different thing, though. I think I can put that under a different category. I enjoyed it, though. I mean, it's a fun thing to watch. It's quite incredible at times. I'll give it a 7 as well.
I'm with Nick that it's the griminess of the whole thing. What this is going to look like on the VHS shelf, and the way that, like, once you see this, you got to show it to someone else, and you got to whisper about what the movie is when you do it.
You don't say it out loud.
I just watched this movie. I'll tell you about it later. I'm going to go with an 8 on this. More heart than budget is the next category. I didn't even look for a budget. I'm sure
there's no budget out there
to
find.
That would be shocking for sure. I think, it seemed decent. I don't know a lot about the martial arts genre. This is the one that I've seen the most, and it seems like it could be done fairly cheaply. I'll give it a 5 simply because I really was impressed by the 2 leads.
Everyone's given their all in this film, but all martial arts films of this era basically have the same budget. They're shooting them TV style back to back. I think the Crippled Masters have 3 in the series, and then I think there's 3 or 4 in the Kung Fu Crippled Heroes line. These guys started in a lot of films. It was just pushing them out. So you can't go terribly high, but this was the first one. So I'll go way up to a 7, actually.
Well, what the hell? I'll give it an 8 because I think everything that you said there, Nick, plus the fact that it takes an incredible amount of effort and heart, I think, to choreograph these fights. I think yes, they don't have the biggest budget, but it's a typical budget, I think, for a Hong Kong film of this era, and yet, just for the fact that the heroes themselves, the 2 stars themselves, are showcased in such an amazing way in these martial arts fights, I'm giving it an 8.
I'll bring it up from where I was going to be because the work that must have gone into the choreography is pretty impressive. I think that the movie itself has some cynicism to it from the business side, but I think that the effort put in by the 2 leads is a lot. So 6 for me. What the fuck moments?
I think the fact that the arm cutting, like really right off the bat, it seems like it's going to be pretty what the fuck, and then the arm cutting off where he doesn't bleed to death and manages to regrow like a slight arm in there, and then how poorly he's treated by the village and all that stuff. It just seems so crazy, but then it's just like you realize this is just the village, and they're shitty people. But like, so I don't know. I think the weirdest thing to me just became the fact that the Lord, the master, had the armor plate on his back, and it wasn't really explained. It was just always there. And he used it very well, but it was just always there.
I thought he had a hump.
Yeah, well, exactly, and see, that was the thing, right? Like, so watching this time after seeing it before, I'm like, the hump. Oh, there's the hump. Okay, something's gonna happen with that, and then it's just like dong dong dong. You get the sound effect, and it's like, oh yeah, he's got metal in there, and it's just like, yep, isn't explained at all. Just he's got it. Must get really sweaty under that, but terrible thing. Anyways, I'll give it a 5.
I have to go higher because there's some weird stuff in this movie. The Kung Fu Master that just prefers to be in a rice pot at all times, which is never explained or even it doesn't surprise anybody that this old guy just likes, I'm just gonna hang out in a small little pot for a while. The choice to explain the legless master's deformity, or not, his handicap, the cause of his handicap, as pouring acid on his legs, is absolutely out there. We really didn't need the whole bit with the jade horses. And the cop coming in at the end. Structurally, that was just weird to have that come in probably the last 20 minutes of the movie. I'll go with the 7 on WTF. Not the weirdest movie I've seen by a long shot, but still, if I was going to the theater and I saw this, it would take me out. It would definitely go, what the hell, or what the fuck.
For me, watching this, all the WTF moments that are supposedly there are to me explained by the fact that it's a martial arts movie from Hong Kong in 1979, and it's pretty much typically what you would see in these things. It's no more WTF than any others. I've seen others that are far more WTF than this, and even those I wouldn't score high because that's just kind of more the culture around these films. I did not see WTFs in this thing. For me, that was where the film falls apart, and I only give it a 2.
I think that it's got some weird balance to it of really cool kung fu, really horrific, body horror, and then watering plants. like more screen time for watering plants than you'd think should be in a kung fu movie. So I'm going to go up to a 6 on this. But unlike a lot of the WTF talk that we have, it's the WTF is more embedded. It's not individual moments, and it does make it difficult to score. But 6 is where I'm going to land. Memorable moments.
This is an interesting one for me. I've seen it 3 times, and I can say that I remember about the same amount from viewing number 2 as viewing number 3, where it's just like, yeah, so the 2 crippled guys get together and they fight. Yeah, okay, and I don't remember anything else. I didn't remember the Jade Dragons. I didn't remember the other guy coming in to help them. I just remember the overall concept of the movie, which, given the fact that I've seen it 3 times and do enjoy it, probably not so good. So I can only give it a 4.
Yeah, it does have a certain, that was cool, but it's always just going to be one of several Crippled Masters movies, sort of. They're all kind of really good, but they're all also kind of the same. I'm sure, you're going to remember something like this, but are you going to remember specific moments? Probably not. This one in particular has some really good training sequences, and some of the devices they come up to train, I think, are quite good. But memorable? Probably not. It's not going to be a basement score because it is this type of film, which isn't exactly normal, but is not going to be sky high either. So I'd say a 6.
See, for me, I got higher because I think it's not a memorable moment so much, or memorable moments that are many of them. It's a memorable experience overall. It's that same thing that James said is, I saw this film, I got to show it to somebody. Hey, let me tell you about this film in private. But I will never forget this film, so I'll tell you about it. Not individual things, I'll tell you the overall concept. And that makes it an experience we will never forget, because the concept, and we'll get to that a little bit more later, but because the concept is unlike anything else you've seen. So as an experience, a memorable experience, it's extremely high to me, and I give it an 8.
Well, I think that my points have gone to other categories from what Jack has said. I think that it probably all averages out, but my points were scattered in other areas. I don't remember anything that happened in this movie, like not a thing. I remember enjoying the kung fu stuff, but nothing specific in my head at all. Only a 2 for me. Crazy concept.
I mean, I think there's no question. Again, it all comes down to the reason that I first watched it, where it's like, oh, it's called the Crippled Masters. It's got an armless guy and a legless guy, and they're doing kung fu together. And it's just like, this seems really crazy to me. This is why I want to watch it. So I will give it an 8.
Yeah, this is out there. And I mean, as this season would be, this doesn't get made without somebody just going, we can make a buck or two out of this. Nobody else is going to do it. I'm going to go with an 8 as well.
The concept for this, it's a man with no legs doing martial arts, teaming with a man with one arm doing martial arts, or one sort of arm, I guess you would say. It's a 10. Move on.
Vestigial, is that what they call it?
Yeah, vestigial. Yeah.
Thank you. We started off with Nick saying that these were films that wouldn't or couldn't be made now. It shouldn't have been made then. Todd Browning's Freaks is like 40 years before this, and that wasn't okay at the time. So, just often we use the phrase "it was a different time," but it's never been that different.
It's a different culture too.
It is a different culture. I don't know how any of this makes any sense as far as as a movie you're going to make. So 10 for me as well. All right.
It's a crazy, I was uncomfortable for the first 15 minutes, and then I settled into going, I think I'm getting used to this. The first 15 minutes, I was like, it felt so icky. I felt like I had to shower.
You probably did, but that's
that had nothing to do
probably true. Yeah.
I think ultimately I probably would have given it a 10, but for the fact that just that alone was the 8. The rest of it just there's not enough crazy in the actual guys needing revenge on the Lord. That part isn't crazy enough, so that's why I couldn't go all the way.
Yeah, I mean the rest of the movie isn't interesting enough to be its own movie.
Fair enough. There's not enough story in there.
What's really funny about this movie is, though, a lot of us scored it extremely high in categories, and then we all had one category where it just got hammered.
Oh,
It was completely different for everybody. This is a different experience for every single person.
And that's the thing. I like this movie. I will watch it again. But would I say that it deserves to be amongst the top of the Octagon? Nope.
Scoring bears that out. What is the final score there?
Well, I will tell you that it is not part of the top of the Octagon. it comes up with a still pretty respectable 66.5 out of 100, which puts it in the top half, and which ties it with Big City Blues, and right behind The Incredibly Strange Creatures That Stopped Living and Became Some Zombies.
I would watch it over either one of those.
Well, I'd watch Big City Blues still, because it is one of the greatest movies of all time. So
that sucked. God, it sucked.
All right, let's
do some business
rather than relitigate.
Yeah. So business.
All right. Welcome back to the Cult Film Showdown. You can find us on Patreon, support the craziness that we're doing. We're going to, once we have some Patreons, some Patreon patrons, I think that's the right term. We're gonna do some stuff that no one else will hear. It'll be a secret. We'll do something even. We'll do the other two Crippled Masters movies in a way that not everyone will hear. We're also on Instagram at the Cult Film Showdown, and find us on your favorite podcast app. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. And we are sponsored by WeTalkPodcast.com, the home of the Octagon, where you can look at the whole record of all the movies we've done and sorted by individual categories. And they have a Twitter and they have a Facebook.
Excellent. Well, we move on with season 17. Enter the Octagon to Octagon Harder, as you've added in there now, Jim. Thank you very much. And this one.
That means Octagon 3 will be Octagon with a Vengeance.
Yeah.
Octagon in 3D is what it has to be.
Okay.
Oh, you're right.
And we move on with For Your
This
Height.
one's Octagon here.
Yeah. For Your Height Only is the next movie from my season travelogue of the Philippines. So I think that it'll be very interesting to hear the scores for that one. But I think that the Crippled Masters has its place and can be enjoyed by all, unless you're sensitive. In which case, don't watch this movie.
Don't watch. Is there a single movie we can say to watch if you're sensitive?
Oh yeah, probably there is, but just not
like
this one.
There's probably a Disney one or something.
Yeah, there's one or two I'm sure that we've done. but anyways, for Jim and for Jack and for Nick, I am your host, 8th Dan Stanadu, and thanks for listening to the Cult Film Showdown.
Cut his other arm off. Doesn't that smell nice, huh? Where is it?